Revealed, how a cleaning lady's inspiring response transformed a millionaire's view on life. Emily awoke before dawn, the soft light barely nudging through the curtains, reminder of another day set to repeat itself. As she swung her feet down, the familiar weight settled on her heart, a mixture of determination and an ache that never quite left since her husband passed. At 34, she lived in a worn but homey two-bedroom house, where the walls held the echoes of laughter from her two children. Yet, the quiet whispers of those moments were drowned out by the constant worry that she couldn't provide them with more than just warmth and love. She grabbed her broom, feeling the pail wood grain under her fingertips, each push across the floor a silent promise she made to herself to keep their little world intact. Across town, Jason sipped his orange juice, his sprawling mansion a stark contrast to Emily's simple life. At 38, he was a self-made millionaire, with accolades and a glittering exterior that enchanted the elite. Yet as he sat alone in his breakfast nook, the glimmer felt like a mask. It was heavy, suffocating. His heart raced with an unease he couldn't name. He had it all: wealth, status, but had lost sight of what really mattered. The loneliness clawed at him, a shadow lurking in his ordered world. When he hired Emily to clean his home, he noticed her quiet demeanor, her humility brushing against his ego like a soft breeze. To him, cleaning was a job, not a vocation. It was something to be looked down upon. But Emily's work was infused with a dedication he hadn't anticipated. Her movements, calculated yet gentle, spoke of a resilience he hadn't encountered in his boardroom conversations. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily began to share snippets of her life, how she faced mornings with purpose despite the void left by her husband, the struggles that came with two children, all while balancing a home that was both a sanctuary and a battleground. It was these unadorned conversations that gnawed at Jason's insides, challenging him to acknowledge the superficiality of his vanity. But then, a catastrophic business deal fell through, drawing unwanted media attention like vultures on a carcass. Jason felt the walls of his carefully crafted world begin to crumble, and for the first time, he felt the urge to call Emily, not for cleaning tips, but for guidance. As her words rolled through their next encounter, she spoke of confronting one's failures, of the strength found in vulnerability. Yet as Jason grappled with opening up to her wisdom, he encountered relentless judgment from peers who held him to a pedestal he wasn't sure he deserved. This tug-of-war ignited a war within him. Should he seek honesty and self-redemption or maintain the facade that had bought him admiration? The clock ticked relentlessly as he weighed his self-worth against the echoes of judgment from those around him, inching closer to a breaking point. The threshold loomed. Would he dare to reshape his life, risking the disdain of his social circles? Emily continued her work, oblivious to the storm she had ignited in him, her presence lingering like a soft echo in his mind. Would he summon the bravery to acknowledge her influence in front of the world, or let the chains of societal expectations bind him to a hollow life? The thread of tension tightened, each interaction pushing them closer to an inevitable confrontation, a moment of revelation that would forever alter their lives. The sun had barely risen when Emily stood on the threshold of her front door, a cleaned exterior that mirrored her resolve. Today felt different, charged with a promise she couldn't articulate. She held a notebook, its pages filled with hastily scribbled thoughts and dreams that danced just beyond her reach. As she stared at the worn streets of her neighborhood, she felt a flicker of ambition ignite within her, a desire to capture something more valuable than mere survival. Inside her home, life buzzed with the usual chaos of children rushing to get ready for school. The sound of laughter mixed with the clashing of breakfast utensils, but beneath it, Emily felt a restlessness tugging at her. What could she offer them beyond the routine? They deserved more than simple sustenance. They needed a beacon of hope, an embodiment of dreams realized. The thought leapt into her mind, a business of her own. At the same time, Jason wrestled with the weight of his recent decisions. Standing in front of a glass-walled conference room, he felt the cool steel of inevitability creep into his thoughts. His colleagues were perched on the edges of their seats, their eyes boring into him with expectations he could no longer fulfill. As he gave updates on their faltering project, he felt an undeniable constriction in his throat. The once familiar rhythm within these corporate walls felt alien and unwelcoming. He was trapped in a gilded cage of his own making, his thoughts refused to drift from Emily. How she approached a mundane task with an artistry he once overlooked. The tangible impact of her labor ignited a desire within him to break away from the mold he was trapped in, yet he felt paralyzed. The tension between self-worth and societal expectations loomed, heavier than before. He longed to confide in her to dismantle the facade of the perfect millionaire, but fear clung to him like a shadow. That evening, after a long day of isolation, he found himself on the sidewalk where he last encountered Emily. The dull thud of his heart matched the thumping of his nerves. Should he approach her again? Should he break social codes and seek wisdom from someone society deemed beneath him? Meanwhile, Emily, on the cusp of planning her future, sat at the dining table covered with sketches and flowcharts. Each mark breathed life into her aspirations, a cleaning business that transformed lives rather than merely spaces. Each flick of the pen felt like a vote of confidence in her potential. She could live freely, she envisioned wielding her experience into something that empowered others like her, but doubts hovered like faint clouds. Would her children support her dreams? What if she failed? Yet with each question, determination sparked. She couldn't afford stagnation. Her children needed more than just a mother, they needed a role model who dared to chase after dreams, however fragile they seemed. As their lives unwound towards an unpredictable convergence, a shared moment loomed. Would Jason recognize the wisdom in her struggle, and would Emily grasp the strength in vulnerability? The realization bubbled closer to the surface for both of them. Emily's clean spaces were evolving into aspirations, while Jason's unraveling world needed an anchor, a humble yet profound connection that could redefine both their trajectories. Just as Emily tucked her dreams away, Jason prepared to knock on her door, unaware of the transformative conversation awaiting him, a moment that could either solidify their paths or irreversibly change their fates. Their separate journeys were edging closer, intensified by the simmering prospect of connection. What awaited on the other side of that door as they stood on the precipice of revelation? The door swung open, and there stood Emily, a portrait of surprise mingled with composure. Jason hesitated, the weight of his purpose settling heavily on his shoulders as he wrestled with the impulse to retreat. But a soft breeze, fragrant with the lingering sense of home and determination, urged him forward. "Jason," she said, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. "What brings you here?" He swallowed hard, his throat dry from the sudden tension that coiled around them. "I wanted to talk," he replied, his words tumbling out clumsily, yet carved from sincerity. About everything." Stepping aside, she gestured him in. As Jason crossed the threshold, he felt both an exhilaration and a pit of uncertainty hollowing in his stomach. The room, cluttered yet vibrant, felt like a metaphor for her life, chaotic, yet filled with potential. Emily's eyes, sharp with understanding, searched his face for his intent. "I've been thinking a lot about my choices," he began, unsure of how to articulate the turmoil bubbling inside him. "I've been in this corporate world where I've chased after things that don't matter, and I see you, battling your own challenges, and making choices that actually mean something." Emily's heart quickened. Was this the moment of truth she had unknowingly awaited? "You think my life is wrapped in meaning?" she asked, half in disbelief. "Absolutely," he responded earnestly. "You care about your impact, you're doing something that matters beyond profit. That's bigger than my world." Her brow furrowed slightly, and a small part of her considered the weight of his perspective. "It's not all roses, you know. I doubt myself constantly. My dreams feel so fragile against the backdrop of bills and responsibilities. What if I fail? What if it isn't enough?" Jason opened his mouth to protest, but he hesitated, realizing his own fears mirrored hers. He was a man who had built an empire, yet the structures he had erected felt hollow now. Would admitting his struggles to Emily strip away his polished facade? It's okay to feel that way, he finally said, his voice more confident. Maybe embracing the vulnerability is the strength. You found courage in your path, you're already serving a purpose. Emboldened by their shared exchange, Emily nodded slowly, feeling embers of resolve reigniting. And you? The walls of your success, would you call them secure? The question hung in the air, ripe with tension. Jason's expression shifted, a quick flicker of recognition passing through his eyes. I thought so, he admitted. But it's more like a gilded cage, one I'm desperate to escape. The admission felt liberating, the cork finally removed from his bottled emotions. As they stood there, enveloped by vulnerability and honesty, something shifted. A common thread wove their narratives together, a tapestry of fear and ambition. Emily saw not just a successful man, but a man yearning for connection, for authenticity. Why not take a leap? She suggested cautiously, heart pounding. Start anew together. Your insights can help me grow my business, and I don't know, help you rediscover what matters. The room was thick with anticipation, the air electrified with possibility. Jason could taste the risk, the promise of change hanging just within reach. Was he ready to dismantle the walls around his ambitions, to embrace the raw energy of collaboration? As their paths intertwined, both faced the lure of risk, a confrontation that could either solidify their independence or entangle them in unforeseen complications. Would they dare to pursue their intertwined fates in a world where vulnerability was strength? With each passing heartbeat, they both felt the pull toward uncharted territories. What new challenges awaited them as they stepped forward, hands trembling with the weight of potential? Jason stood in the lingering silence, his mind racing with the implications of Emily's suggestion. He felt her invitation spinning around him like a whirlwind, tempting yet disorienting. Could he truly redefine his life, letting go of the security he had mistakenly equated with success? What would that look like? He finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He could feel the stakes rising, each word full of possibility and fear. It was not just about merging personal lives or business strategies, it was about reinvention and the courage to face the unknown. Emily's eyes lit up with a mixture of hope and a calculated resolve. We could start by identifying what matters to each of us, she proposed. Use your expertise to help me craft a vision for a brand that resonates with people, tapping into purpose over profit. He marveled at her clarity. The energy radiating from her was infectious, igniting a seldom-felt excitement deep within him. Part of him recognized the enormity of what they were discussing. She was asking him to invest not just his knowledge, but his heart. And in return, I need to dismantle some of my own beliefs, he acknowledged slowly. To step beyond my comfort zone where everything has been about the bottom line. A challenge loomed ahead. The stakes felt palpable, tilting from mere conversation to something more profound, an exploration of identity, values, and the motives behind their choices. His mind grappled with his existing life, board meetings, profit margins, public accolades that felt increasingly shallow. Yet here was this vibrant individual, nudging him toward authenticity. Fear is paralyzing, Emily said, reading his uncertainty. But imagine what we could build together, a business rooted in values that won't just survive but inspire. Her conviction rang true, striking a note deep within him. He had always envisioned himself as an architect of success, but suddenly the blueprint before him was shifting into something more meaningful. Jason felt a wave of defiance against the expectations that governed him. But if we fail? The question tumbled out, revealing the very essence of his internal struggle. Would he be ready to bear the shame of a misstep, as if failure was something to be avoided at all costs? That's part of the journey, she responded gently but firmly. We risk failure to create something beautiful. The unknown is where growth happens. Her words hung in the air, transforming from simple encouragement into a call to arms. The thought of that uncertainty began to forge clarity in his mind, igniting a flicker of excitement. Perhaps failure wouldn't feel like the end if it's accompanied by passion rather than profit, he realized aloud. She smiled, a knowing expression that danced across her features. Exactly. It's not about the prestige but authenticity. We create value through stories, purpose, and community. Jason's heart raced as ideas ignited. They could develop a strategic plan that would ground her business in these values, but the real work lay beyond spreadsheets and sales forecasts. He would need to confront the limits of his previous mindset, acknowledging his privileges while committing to a shared vision with Emily. "Let us start small," he said, his tone resolute. "A mission statement, perhaps. Something that defines the essence of this venture." As they began sketching the outline of their collaboration, the room seemed to pulse with energy and fresh potential. They were weaving a tapestry of risk and hope, a bold stand against the allure of familiar confines. But as excitement burgeoned, the weight of their decision loomed large. Were they both truly prepared to navigate this intricate blend of ambition and vulnerability? A new wave of uncertainty washed over Jason, mingling with determination. They may have laid the groundwork for a profound partnership, but what would the repercussions be in their personal lives? Suddenly, the challenge of merging their professional inspirations with real-life complexities felt overwhelming. As he looked into Emily's eyes, the gravity of their choices crystallized. Could they transcend everything they had known? Could love or friendship truly flourish in a world built on mutual vulnerability? The uncharted territories beckoned again, urging them onward into a tumultuous landscape rich with both promise and peril. Would they find the strength to navigate it without losing themselves in the process, or would they falter in the face of the unknown? With fresh resolve, they prepared to step beyond the threshold of safety, breathing in the heady mixture of apprehension and ambition. The next phase of their lives lay ahead, an adventure waiting to ignite. What struggles could potentially unravel their burgeoning partnership, testing not just their resolve, but their very understanding of what it means to be truly successful? Jason leaned over the bare wooden table, sketches and notes scattered like the fragmented thoughts racing in his mind. Emily's excitement infected him, yet doubts gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Could he truly dismantle the protective walls he had erected over years of ambition and competition? "Let us identify our core values," he proposed, feeling the weight of the moment. This wasn't just theory anymore, it was like unraveling a complex puzzle he had known intimately. His experience in the corporate world was extensive. He had spent years plotting strategies, but now he faced a raw, unfiltered perspective of what it meant to be real. Emily's eyes sparkled. "Yes. We can start with what drives us individually." But as Jason opened his mouth to answer, his voice faltered. The ambition that had propelled him forward for years now seemed empty in contrast to the purpose that Emily embodied. What did drive him, really? Was it the need to impress, to achieve, or something deeper? "Okay," he said slowly, choosing his words like a tightrope walker testing his balance. "My journey has always been motivated by success, climbing the corporate ladder, winning accolades. But I'm beginning to think that's not enough." He saw a glimmer of understanding in Emily's expression. She had been there too, struggling against the current of expectation. "That's a powerful realization," she encouraged, her tone suggesting that the simple acknowledgement of this truth was a significant step. The room felt charged as Jason searched his mind. A crucial piece was still missing. He had never confronted why he equated personal worth with professional milestones. The questions unraveled deeper layers of fear. Am I letting go of who I am? The vulnerability in the inquiry surprised him. Emily nodded knowingly. "It's about evolution, not loss. You're not abandoning your skills, you're redirecting their purpose." Her insights were sharp, cutting through the fog of his uncertainty. A flicker of determination ignited within him, yet the fear of exposing himself lingered. He wondered if he could handle the spotlight that success had once shone on him, if that light was now focused on authenticity instead. Perhaps the mission statement should reflect this evolution, how our experiences shape our purpose, not just our profits, he suggested, feeling the wheels of his mind turning. Emily scribbled notes, her enthusiasm contagious. "We're not just writing a mission statement. We're crafting a manifesto for how we want to be perceived, how we want to live and create." Every word felt like a stepping stone, leading him closer to a revelation. They were not just creators of business but storytellers of their lives. Jason felt as if he were shedding an old skin, the prospect both terrifying and exhilarating. "I've always avoided risks," he admitted, the confession spilling out before he could censor it. "It was easy to stick with what I knew. But look where that's gotten you," she countered gently. "Stuck in a cycle that feels hollow. What if we embraced the risk? What if failing became a lesson, not an enemy?" Her perspective was jarring. Hadn't he spent years defining failure strictly in terms of profit and loss? He flashed back to board meetings, the relentless pursuit of KPIs, and the constant fear of condemnation should those numbers slip. "Maybe I need to see failure as a catalyst for growth. A stepping stone rather than a stumbling block," he mused. It was liberating yet daunting, creating an influx of questions. At that moment, he realized that the challenge ahead was not just strategic but fundamentally personal. They were not only reshaping a brand but reshaping their understanding of success itself. However, a knot formed in his stomach as he thought about transgressing into uncharted emotional territory. When personal values collided with professional vision, could he maintain balance? Would their partnership withstand the scrutiny of the outside world and their own insecurities? As thoughts swirled, he felt an undercurrent of fear threading through his burgeoning hope. They were building something that could indeed inspire, but what if the raw honesty of it left them exposed? Jason glanced around, momentarily distracted by the mundane sounds of the street outside. He needed to articulate his newfound resolution transparently yet pragmatically, a challenge that felt monumental. "Can we create a world where vulnerability is strength?" he asked, his voice softer but resolute. Emily's expression shifted, revealing a shared vision. "Absolutely, but we must allow ourselves to embrace the fear and uncertainty that come with it." The air around them thickened with anticipation. They were committing to not just a business venture but a new identity, one that would come with battles and breakthroughs alike. As Jason contemplated the path forward, he realized this was not a mere change in career direction but a profound shift in who he was. Would he relinquish the security of his past for the promise of something more meaningful, and could he truly embrace vulnerability as a part of his newfound identity? In that moment, Jason understood that the struggle for authenticity was just beginning. As he looked back up at Emily, he knew they had opened a floodgate of possibilities. The next critical step hinged not just on their budding project, but on confronting their deepest fears and aspirations. What inner demons lay in wait to challenge their resolve, testing the very foundations of their partnership? Who would they discover themselves to be if they dared to confront them head-on? Jason took a deep breath, refocusing on the challenge that lay ahead. The gravity of their intentions pressed against his chest like an anchor, and he could feel the familiar stir of anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. Uncertainty lingered, but so did an exhilarating sense of possibility. His thoughts raced, navigating uncharted emotional territories as the stakes of vulnerability crystallized before him. "Let us define what authenticity truly means for us," he said, his voice steadier than before. It felt as if he were starting to dismantle the armor he had worn, piece by piece, inviting a fresh air of honesty. Emily leaned in, her eyes sharp with curiosity and hope. "What if we looked at it through the lens of our personal stories?" she suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. Jason marveled at the way she transformed support into a call to action. Rather than merely pushing him to confront his demons, she was encouraging him to openly share them. "I've never been one to tell my story," he admitted, feeling exposed. "I was always too busy focusing on the next project or the next promotion." Saying it out loud was a revelation in itself. In his relentless pursuit of success, he had overlooked the richness of his own narrative. "Maybe that's what we're missing," Emily replied. "Our stories are our experiences. They hold the insights that can inspire our mission." Jason considered this. The years spent toiling away in boardrooms and strategy sessions had crafted a polished surface, but beneath it was a tumultuous journey punctuated by struggles, failures, and ignite moments. He thought of the late nights, the doubts, and the relentless comparisons to others that clouded his vision of self-worth. The surface-level achievements of promotions and colleagues' accolades had overshadowed his authentic self. What if we share those struggles openly? He proposed, feeling a flicker of determination igniting once more. What if we build our brand around our scars and not just our successes? Emily's smile grew, and Jason could see the spark of a shared vision igniting between them. Together, they could frame a narrative that celebrated resilience rather than perfection. The potential for authentic connection loomed large, beckoning him forward. But a thorn of doubt still nestled in his mind. Would being raw and real alienate potential clients or connect with them deeply? The threat of exposure gnawed at him. He had always feared judgment, what others might think if they peeled back the facade, revealing a man who wasn't solely defined by profit margins. Then we would need to be prepared for criticism, Jason muttered, anxiety layering his voice. What if people don't respond well? What if they see us as weak? Emily placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Judgment will always be a factor, but it's also a chance to connect with those who feel alone in their struggles. The room echoed her words, each syllable amplifying a truth that he had long tucked away. Stepping into openness meant confronting not just external judgment but the judgment he imposed on himself. "You're right," he replied, newfound steadiness edging into his tone. "Each risk we take will be a testament to our authenticity. It will be uncomfortable, but that discomfort is our pathway to growth." He felt the tide of determination swell within him, yet the looming fears hung like clouds overhead. Each positive realization cracked open another layer of insecurity, sending him spiraling into conflicts he had buried. An underlying question emerged: could he navigate vulnerability in a partnership where trust had not yet fully blossomed? What if exposing his fears pushed them apart instead of drawing them closer? As invigorating as it was to embrace their vision, the journey toward authenticity would not just challenge their professional aspirations, it would probe personal boundaries, igniting introspection about what they truly valued. Can we truly redefine success while we still cling to conventional metrics? He pondered aloud, his brow furrowed in thought. What if our emotions and vulnerabilities override everything we thought we knew about achievement? "There lies the transformation," Emily responded, her enthusiasm unwavering. "Reframing success will give it new meaning. It's about how we feel when we take risks, not just the outcomes we achieve." With every word exchanged, Jason felt them skating closer to uncharted territory that promised growth. He was on the precipice of not only redefining his professional life but weaving a new narrative that dared to prioritize emotional authenticity over external validation. But as he embraced the creeping excitement bubbling within, Jason remained acutely aware of the roadblocks that awaited him on this journey. Would they stand firm enough to support one another through the maelstrom of self-doubt and societal expectations? He glanced at the sketches and notes strewn across the table, a tangible manifestation of their collaborative effort to create something that transcended the mundane. They were not building merely a business, they were sculpting a reflection of their values, their truths. Feeling the weight of that responsibility, he whispered, "Let us forge this together, one step at a time." The air thickened with resolve and expectation, and as their conversation deepened, the question loomed: would they weather the storms of vulnerability, or would the revelations of their past threaten to tear them apart before they had a chance to flourish? The morning sun filtered through the window, casting warm hues across the chaotic workspace. Jason stood, brushing his fingers across sketches and half-formed ideas, feeling both invigorated and overwhelmed. He had stepped beyond the comfort of routine and into the vulnerable unknown, a realm that promised growth but also invited shadows of doubt. The vision was clear between him and Emily, but would that vision hold when tested against reality? As they settled into their brainstorming session, Jason felt excitement wrestle with trepidation. He glanced at Emily, who was doodling with fervor, lost in her thoughts. They had defined authenticity, yet he sensed that the real test lay in exposing his narrative, a labyrinth that he had meticulously avoided for years. Could he truly unravel those tangled threads while maintaining a facade of professionalism? "Let us talk about our individual stories more," he proposed, half hopeful, half anxious. "The ups and downs that led us here." Emily looked up, her pen frozen midair. "That's the essence of what we want to create, isn't it? Raw, real experiences, she encouraged, her voice soothing yet firm. But remember, it's not just about you, it's about how we relate those stories to our audience. How they can see themselves in what we share. Her insight sparked something within him, a flicker of bravery. Still, a familiar wave of self-doubt washed over him. He had spent so many years polishing his persona, presenting images of success over vulnerability. What if stripping that back left only the raw, unrefined Jason behind? The one intertwined with failures and insecurities. "Let me start, then," Emily said, her tone steadying Jason's racing heart. "I was once told that I'd never be good enough in this industry. It came from someone who didn't see the potential in me. For years, that voice echoed, preventing me from pursuing my passion. But the moment I confronted that fear was when I could take ownership of my story." As she spoke, Jason found his apprehension easing. Emily had offered a glimpse of her truth, a truth that would resonate with so many. Why couldn't he let his own experiences emerge? He cleared his throat, fighting back the tightness in his chest. For years, Jason had bristled at any personal inquiry, defending his walls. "I used to chase accolades, seeking validation from promotions and numbers. But the deeper I fell into that world, the more I lost sight of what truly mattered: the lessons learned, the scars earned along the way." He hesitated, feeling the sting of honesty as it erupted from within. "I lost close friends when I prioritized work over relationships. And the harder I worked, the emptier I became. Somewhere in there, I forgot the value of connection, authenticity, and, frankly, who I was without the titles." Staring at Emily, he saw her nod, encouragement radiating from her. "That's it, Jason. There's strength in exposing those wounds. They can serve as the bridge between you and your audience. People relate to struggles, it holds so much power. Could it be that simple? Could the key to unlocking the connection lay in his willingness to confront his past head-on?" He envisioned their brand moving beyond mere transactions, evolving into something profoundly personal. A legacy rooted in shared human experience. But just as he felt a spark of hope igniting, his mind spiraled back to the looming fear: criticism. What would others think? Would their clients accept this new vulnerability, or would they retreat back to the comfort of polished exteriors? "Jason," Emily said softly, jolting him from his thoughts. "What are you afraid of? What if exposure leads to a connection you've only ever dreamed of?" She was right to challenge him. This was not just about potential clients, it was about establishing a culture of authenticity, a movement toward realness in an arena that thrived on facades. But as he pondered, a new anxiety bubbled under the surface. What if the spotlight revealed insecurities he still hadn't fully addressed? The day dragged on, filled with discussions laced with laughter and strife, yet the uncertainty clung to him. He felt the tension churning within, a fusion of excitement and hesitancy that felt both intoxicating and daunting. The path ahead was framed in ambiguity, but perhaps, within that ambiguity lay the true essence of their vision. Just before their session ended, Jason leaned back, contemplating the precarious balance of vulnerability and strength. "Let's set a timeline," he suggested, a hint of resolve pushing beneath his uncertainty. "We need to push ourselves to draft our own stories, to publish them as our first authentic act." Emily's eyes sparkled, her energy unabated. "Imagine the feedback. We could inspire others to share their narratives, too." For the first time, Jason felt the weight of his own fear transforming into a shared mission. Yet, as he caught a glimpse of their unfinished sketches on the table, one thing became starkly evident: this journey toward authenticity would demand far more than simply sharing stories. It required confronting the very fabric of who they were together. The room pulsed with tension as the next questions began weaving themselves through his thoughts. What would they uncover about themselves in this process, and could they truly maintain their connection amidst the revelations they were about to face? As he prepared to leave, Jason found himself standing at the precipice of a confession that was both exciting and terrifying. Was it too late to turn back? He had ventured into unknown waters before, but this was different, intensely personal. The moment of truth loomed on the horizon, ready to reshape everything he knew about himself and Emily, and redefine what it meant to truly be authentic. The skyline glinted under the fading light as Jason sat alone in the cafe, nursing a lukewarm coffee. His thoughts swirled like the steam rising from the cup, each eddy bringing him back to the looming task. The empty pages of his notepad stared back at him, as if mocking his hesitance. Here he was, on the brink of something transformative, yet the urge to retreat into the safety of silence tugged at him. Forcing himself to focus, he flipped to the first page and dated it. Today was the day he would begin to draft his story. But as the pen hovered over the paper, doubt crept in, whispering venomous questions. Would anyone care? What if he exposed himself and found only vulnerability staring back? He took a deep breath, reminding himself of Emily's unwavering belief in their mission. The words didn't have to flow perfectly, they just needed to be real. In that moment of stillness, he reached deep within himself. What was his core struggle? What moments had shaped the man he had become? His mind flickered to the night of his first failed startup, a project that was supposed to catapult him into success. The meeting felt electric with potential, a second chance at proving his worth. Yet, when everything crumbled, he felt the searing weight of disappointment, not just in the eyes of investors, but in his own reflection. That failure had coursed through him like a poison, affecting his relationships, his passion, and in many ways, his identity. Jason began to write, the pen scratching against the paper with deliberate urgency. Failure is a word that weighs heavily on my heart, and one I have carried for too long. He stared at the sentence, feeling an unfamiliar lift in his chest. Honest words begged to break free, but he hesitated, stalling at the precipice of truth. In the cafe's bustle, he caught snippets of conversations around him. A mother laughing with her child, a couple deep in discussion, and an elderly man waving at a friend. They all seemed connected by shared stories and the tangible essence of their lives. Why had he avoided that openness for so long? With renewed resolve, Jason continued. I often chased applause instead of love, accolades instead of friendships. Each success felt hollow, like a trophy weighing down my shelf, but I never stopped to realize the relationships crumbled beneath it. He found his voice, a narrative taking shape that felt both frightening and liberating, yet doubt re-entered. As he scanned the cafe, anticipation mixed with fear. What if the risk overshadowed their professional ambitions? As he wrestled with this internal conflict, he realized he had crafted a major insight. His desire to connect with others had been masked by the very facade he had built for success. Once again, Emily's voice echoed in his mind. What if exposure leads to a connection? The thought triggered a sense of urgency within him. It was not just about his story but a challenge to redefine the very concept of success itself, shifting the focus from achievements to authentic living. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. With a final push, he scrawled down his previous fears alongside his newfound understanding of value. What would I give to reclaim those moments lost to ambition? It's time to tell that truth. As he pushed his chair back, a sense of lightness enveloped him, a strange mix of anxiety and clarity. He had crossed a threshold, confronting the shadows that had haunted him for years. The weight of his story felt simultaneously burdensome and freeing. He was not finished, not yet. But it was a beginning, a perilous leap into a deeper understanding of himself. As he packed his bag, Jason's heart raced with the realization that the next chapter required more than just recalling moments, it would demand action. How would he further explore the ramifications of his vulnerability? The unraveling had only just begun, and there was still the colossal task of sharing his truths with Emily and the audience they sought to engage. He stepped into a brisk evening, aware that his journey was now intertwined with her own. They were forged in a common mission, but would their intertwining stories hinder or enhance their connection? The night air felt electric against his skin as possibilities surged within him. The deliberation of how to navigate their increasingly complicated dynamic weighed on him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that challenges lay ahead. Would they face them together, or would this very process of authenticity put a strain on their partnership? The shadows of doubt loomed, but so did the promise of discovering new layers within themselves. The journey forward was lit by the flicker of his own courage, and at that moment, Jason felt alive with the gravity of what was to come. Tomorrow, he reminded himself, would be another step into the unknown, a step toward what might become the most important conversation of his life. The morning sun filtered through his office window, casting long shadows across Jason's desk, a stark reminder of the previous night's revelations. He had put pen to paper and started unraveling the tangled web of his past, yet the nagging feeling lingered. Was the world truly ready for his truth? Jason shifted uncomfortably in his chair, reviewing the outlines of his thoughts while bypassing underlying fears. His purpose loomed larger than his doubts, so he decided to reach out to Emily. They had agreed to prepare their intersecting narratives, but the pressure felt acute, and the stakes had risen dramatically. He grabbed his phone, fingers trembling slightly as he typed a message to her. "How about we meet to discuss our stories? I need to dive into what I've discovered." He hesitated before hitting send, the sudden rush of vulnerability washing over him. What if sharing this part of himself jeopardized their collaboration? Would she see him as weaker, even fragile? The seconds ticked by like hours until a reply broke through his anxious spirals. "Absolutely. Let us meet at the cafe later. I'm excited to hear what you've unearthed." Her enthusiasm, unfettered by hesitation, reignited a flicker of hope in him. As he prepared for their meeting, assurance battled with apprehension in his heart. Emily was uncharted territory. The very notion of baring his soul to her was intimidating. In the cafe, the familiar sounds of clinking cups and lively chatter served as a backdrop to his musings. He arrived early, seeking clarity amid the swirling thoughts. Looking around, he observed how strangers navigated their own stories, each person a universe of challenges and triumphs, and yet they all shared this moment of existence, a fleeting brush with authenticity. When Emily walked in, a warm smile lit her face. The moment was fleeting, but it filled Jason with a surprising sense of comfort. They exchanged pleasantries before she settled into a seat across from him, her vibrant presence anchoring his spiraling thoughts. "So, what's the story today?" she asked, genuine curiosity sparkling in her eyes. Jason paused, gathering his resolve. "I've decided to share the truth about my failures and how they caused me to lose sight of what really matters." His voice wavered slightly as he continued. "It's scary, Emily. I worry that people will see me differently, or worse, they won't care." "Jason," she began, leaning forward. "That's where the power of your journey lies. People resonate with real-life struggles. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. You're not alone in feeling that way." Her words etched themselves into the fabric of his mind, igniting a spark. This wasn't just about him, it was about shared experiences and healing through authenticity. "What if sharing prompts people to judge me?" he swiftly countered. A wave of uncertainty crashed over him again. "Then face that fear head-on," she replied, her voice steady but firm. "We all have our critics, but what matters is the impact of your story on those willing to listen." As they delved deeper into their ideas, Jason felt a shift. The conversation morphed from a dialogue about individual fears into a spirited exchange about collective healing. Emily's perspective illuminated possibilities he had not yet considered. She challenged him to think of his vulnerabilities as the very bridge to others' hearts, and in that moment, clarity unfolded like a sunrise breaking through the dark. "I have to acknowledge so many layers in my past," Jason stated, scribbling notes furiously. He realized the importance of the raw stories that lurked behind his achievements, waiting for the light of day. The table held the words that carried meaning beyond failure, the potential for growth and reconciliation. Each thought transformed into a stepping stone towards understanding, driving home the realization that vulnerability could foster resilience. But as the conversation progressed, deeper questions loomed. Should he invite Emily into these vulnerabilities? Would revealing his full history solidify their connection, or introduce complexities that threatened to tear them apart? The cafe gradually emptied as the sun dipped lower in the sky, leaving a gentle quiet that enveloped them. "Are you ready for this?" Emily finally asked, her expression earnest. Jason hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. The truth was swelling within him, pressing against his heart. "It's time," he whispered, uncertainty still flickering in his voice, yet the growing determination to face it all shone clearly. With newfound resolve, he realized that exposing his vulnerabilities would not only unfold his story but also carve a space for Emily within it, a daring venture that could either forge a strong bond or test the very fabric of their partnership. The next chapter awaited, and with a heart full of hope and trepidation, Jason prepared for the biggest revelation yet, what it truly meant to combine their narratives into a unified journey. Would they manage to navigate the delicate balance between vulnerability and professionalism, or would they risk losing everything built thus far? The morning sun flooded Emily's kitchen, casting a warm glow upon the plans they had labored over the night before. The sketches of their envisioned business lay sprawled across the table, each one a testament to their dreams and struggles. Today marked a pivotal moment. It was time for both Jason and Emily to fully embrace the narratives they had begun to craft. As she sipped her morning coffee, Emily reflected on the path that had brought her to this moment. Once defined solely by her role as a mother and a cleaning lady, she was now stepping into a new identity, an entrepreneur passionate about creating a business that resonated with authenticity and purpose. The weight of her earlier self-doubt had transformed into a powerful resolve. She envisioned a world where those from humble beginnings could rise and inspire. Meanwhile, at his office, Jason sat at his desk, heart racing as he prepared for their impending meeting. The fear of judgment had been a heavy cloak around his shoulders, but with each word he had penned in recent weeks, that cloak had begun to feel lighter. The prospect of sharing his failures alongside Emily's successes was exhilarating. He finally understood that there lay profound beauty in vulnerability, a connection waiting to unfold. The layers of his past were not simply to be peeled back for scrutiny, but shared for understanding and empathy. When they met at the cafe, the air crackled with energy, charged with the courage of unspoken truths. As they exchanged ideas, Jason could feel the transformation sweeping through him, bolstered by Emily's unwavering belief in their mission. Each story shared built a bridge, each fear acknowledged fortified the structure. This was not merely a collaboration, it was a redefinition of identity, a chance to demonstrate that true strength lies in vulnerability. "Let us articulate what we want to achieve with our brand," Emily suggested, her passion shining brightly. "We're not just telling stories, we're crafting a community where others feel they belong, where their journeys are celebrated." Jason nodded vigorously, excitement bubbling within him. "Our mission statement should reflect that, embracing everyone's narrative, encouraging those who feel lost." He felt a thrill from the fusion of their ideas, the convergence of humility with ambition. As they began drafting their mission statement, clarity struck like a lightning bolt. Jason proposed, it should begin with a simple truth: we honor the journey of every individual, recognizing that struggles do not define us but shape who we become. "That's powerful," Emily said, her eyes sparkling with affirmation. "It speaks directly to how we want our audience to feel seen and valued." They felt the words resonate in the essence of their connection, a reflection of both their struggles and aspirations. With renewed determination, they solidified their vision. Their planned business would not simply focus on profitability, instead, it would embody the belief that each shared experience was invaluable, offering people a safe space to embrace their stories. As they reviewed their mission statement, Jason felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. They had not only crafted a business narrative, they had innovated a path for themselves, a true culmination of their personal revolutions. Both had gained confidence through their collaboration, realizing the potential of shared vulnerability as a foundation for the future. In the weeks that followed, their venture flourished. They hosted workshops where individuals shared their stories, creating a tapestry of resilience that resonated across communities. Jason found himself stepping out from behind boardroom walls, engaging in dialogue that enriched both his personal and professional life. Emily, too, found validation beyond motherhood. She was an empowered figure leading a movement. Despite challenges and setbacks, they remained anchored by their mission. Jason's past failures transformed into stepping stones, while Emily became a beacon of inspiration for aspiring entrepreneurs. They had emerged with a recognition of their worth beyond superficial measures, finding fulfillment in serving others through their work. Ultimately, as Jason stood at a workshop packed with individuals filled with eagerness and gratitude, he felt a surge of purpose wash over him. Today, we celebrate our stories, he declared, voice steady and sincere. The applause that followed echoed support and affirmation, not just for the business they had created but for the individual journeys they had both embraced. In that moment, he realized they had evolved not defined by their successes or failures, but by their courage to connect authentically. Jason felt solid confidence expand within him, his competence now firmly established, while Emily stood alongside him, a partner in every sense of the word. Their intertwined narratives had blossomed into something extraordinary. As they exited that day, hand in hand, they knew they had conquered not just the world outside, but the profound landscapes within, faces illuminated with hope, hearts brimming with purpose. They had proven that vulnerability could indeed lead to limitless possibilities. This is your moment to seize the inspiration you felt. You need to subscribe now to the channel for the next exclusive emotional stories that will change your perspective. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can continue bringing you these transformative journeys. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions to this powerful conclusion, what resonated with you the most. And don't wait even one more second to share this incredible video with at least 5 friends who need to see these transformative stories. Your support makes all the difference.